Hello friends, this is Worm, so long as the prophecy holds true. And are you struggling to have fun in Destiny right now? If so, stick around because I have some pointers to help you with that. Now, it's no secret that towards the end of any season in Destiny 2, the game gets boring. We've kind of got all the weapons that we want to get. We've done all the content. We finished the story, especially by now we finished all of our Grandmaster Nightfalls. Like, what else is there really for us to do in Destiny 2? And how do people like myself manage to find fun in the game throughout the lifetime of a season? And especially with next season gonna be like 7 months long, this is a big question I know that a lot of people are going to have. So in today's video, we are going to cover some of the things that you as a player can do to bring fun back to Destiny 2. Now, the way I'm gonna tier this video is, I guess, kind of by player experience, maybe. We're gonna start with probably the most common number of players, which is the casual, right? The very casual, and then we'll kind of work up from there. But with that being said, the first one I got to get out of the way, I really have to kind of reach way back into the D1 days when I discovered the Crucible, right? So for the first one here, if you don't play in the Crucible, now is the best time to go out there and learn how to play the Crucible. I too was once a beginner player. I only did PvE content way back in 2014, only messed around in some strikes and the story, and I got in PvP one time and I hated it. I didn't just dislike it or oh, I didn't care for it. I hated it. Okay, the meta back then was, what was it, Vanquisher and what was it, 77 Wizard, right? Which was an auto rifle, fusion rifle meta. But I hated it. And I kind of stayed that way for a long time. I didn't touch the Crucible for a long time. And I have a feeling there's a lot of players out there who don't really touch the Crucible all that much. And really, you're missing out on a huge portion of the game and a very fun portion of the game. So right now, towards the end of the season, with only 3 weeks left, is the best time for you to get in there and just play in the Crucible and experience what it's like, right? The sweats have already gone. The sweats have left. Any sweats that are currently still in the game are probably over in Trials, which I'm not saying you have to play Trials, but at least in the Control playlist, where there's also skill-based matchmaking, you're going to be able to explore what the Crucible has to offer. You're going to be able to learn the metas and stuff like that, because Destiny's PvP is a lot different than other games, right? There's not a lot of balance, like Call of Duty, for example. Fast time to kills, pretty balanced weapons. Destiny is the opposite. Slow time to kills, there's not a lot of balance, but it's a great time for you to get out there and just to see how the Crucible is. And you're going to lose a lot of games. You're going to have poor performance in a lot of games, but if you stick to it, you're going to get the hang of it and you'll probably start to enjoy it. So that's the first tip to my very casual players that don't touch PvP, is to get out there and try out PvP. Now, if you are a more seasoned player, you play a fair bit of PvP already and you're kind of bored of it, you play PvE and you're kind of bored of it, you've got all your stuff done for the season, blah, blah, blah. What can you do? Well, that answer is quite simple. Going and changing your builds. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, I have several different builds, but really ask yourself, do you really have several different builds, or do you have one build for each maybe subclass, right? Your Strand Titan using Syntheseps, so then you switch to Arc Titan, and then you use, whatever exotic you use with Arc Titan, blah, 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 and go through like that. But I'm talking about really changing your build up and trying things that you haven't touched in a long, long time, right? This is one of the best ways that I personally can have fun in Destiny 2, because I can go in, I can look at my Vault and I can say, hey, you know what? Let's use Collective Obligation and let's make a Void build out of it. And I'll use, like in this video, I'm using Briar Binds. I'll use Briar Binds. Why not? Right? And I'll go in there and I'll make a whole build around it and I'll have fun with it. Right? Hunters, I don't ever use Solar Hunter in PvE or PvP, right? But when I get bored, I'll go in there and I'll make a Solar Hunter build. I'll do a Caliban's Hand build, and I'll use a Tyranny of Heaven with Incandescent, a loadout that I would never ever normally use. And that to me brings fun and value back to the game, because it's a whole different play style than just putting on Strand Titan and going around shotgun meleeing everything in the game. And this can apply for PvP too, but I think in PvE, that's where builds really shine. And I feel like if you go into PvE and you take a new build, you take weapons that you literally haven't used in years, and you find synergies with them. You know, you craft your own personal builds together. You're gonna have a lot of fun. And not only that, but you get a satisfaction of, hey, I just made a build, right? I didn't look up some YouTube video about, you know, briar binds and whatever gun. I made this build from scratch, and that feeling right there is unmatched, honestly, because then you can go share it with your friends. They'll be like, oh, well, who'd you hear about that from? Say, no, I made it myself. You know, that's literally one of the best feelings. But, you know, crafting your own builds is fantastic. And like I said, like getting out of your comfort zone, using subclasses that you wouldn't normally use, using exotics that you never touch, using, you know, weapon combos that you've never really messed with. All of these are great ways to bring back fun. That's actually what I'm doing here. I have on Briar Binds and Graviton Lance, and I'm doing just a build that is all about Void Warlock, right? Voidlock. And I had a blast doing this, right? And I don't think it's in this gameplay, but you know, a little bit later, I switched to Stasis and I tried out some Stasis builds. Again, I don't play a whole lot of Stasis, especially Stasis Hunter. I don't play a whole lot of Stasis Hunter, but some of the Stasis Hunter builds that you can do are a lot of fun, and really just changing your build up and trying brand new things that you honestly haven't thought of or haven't touched in a long time will bring fun back to Destiny 2, because I think a lot of players, you know, they hear about nerfs and stuff like that, or they hear, oh, this exotic sucks, and they kind of just leave it at that, right? But you shouldn't make those assumptions just because someone says so. You should, you know, get out there, play with them, really build craft into them, and just see how they work, right? So that's, you know, that's the second thing I think that players can do. And this is going to probably apply to the majority of you who are watching this video here. I know that if you're anything like me, like I said, I have the same loadouts for every class. On Titan, it's always Strand currently. On Warlock, it's always, you know, my Solar Warlock healing build. On Hunter, it's always my Void Hunter build, right? But playing around with these other builds is going to bring a level of fun that you really just haven't had in a long time. And again, this is not like some permanent, like, oh, this is going to make the game last forever. It's going to carry you for 3 weeks till next season, right? So that's the end of that one. But I want to move on to the next tip. And this is to my kind of more hardcore players, right? Players who, you know, maybe you have switched up your builds a lot. Maybe you have done all the in-game content, blah, 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 and stuff like that. Here's a tip. Here's a really fun thing to try. Try doing content solo, right? Now, I know this is addressing kind of a upper echelon of players, right? Not a lot of people are able to do this, I'm sorry, but if you can get in there and just attempt to solo a Grandmaster, number one, if you beat it, that is a great feeling, right? But not only that, but there are raid encounters that you could potentially try to solo, or maybe if not solo, you could 2-man or 3-man them, right? Because that brings a level of challenge and a level of you know, fun to the game that really just kind of isn't present at this point in the season, right? Like, yeah, we get it, you know, we've done Root of Nightmares X amount of times, yeah, but have you done Root of Nightmares with like 2 or 3 people, right? You know, you have to it's a whole different environment when you're trying to do a raid encounter with only 3 people, or even less if possible, you know? It's a whole different feeling, and there's this sense of accomplishment that you get for completing these, you know, when you do them, right? So that's something that I think that really you should explore as a player. Like I said, especially if you're in that really, really high upper level of play, you know, you've tested out various builds, you've got really strong builds. Now it's time to really test the limits of that build. You know, now it's time to test the limits of Strand Titan. How good is Strand Titan? Is it good enough to solo a Grandmaster? Is it good enough to, you know, potentially duo or trio an entire raid? I don't know. You know, it's up to you to decide to do that. Then, of course, the last tip that I have, just to bring back just a little bit of fun. This is not the biggest tip by any means or anything like that, but it is slow down and play and enjoy the game, right? I see too many people when I start a strike or when I start a you know, whatever PvE activity, that are just in a rush to get through it. Take your time with it, right? This Nightfall you see in the background here, this is a good one because players have to kind of take their time with it. You know, you can technically run past the beginning, you can do some skips and stuff like that, but you have to engage in combat throughout the most of the strike. However, not all Vanguard encounters or really Destiny 2 encounters in general are like this. But if you slow down, just take your time, you know, lower your light level. If you're already at max level, blah, 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 lower your light level to like 1700 so that you're matched with other players who are new to the game, who are low light level like that are also going to take their time. Because I promise you, if you slow down, have fun killing stuff and trying out new builds, it just brings a level of freshness that I think a lot of Destiny 2 players have kind of forgotten about, right? You know, think about back to our D1 days. If you were a D1 player, if you're a D2 player, I guess think back to your, you know, whenever you started playing, you didn't rush through everything as fast as possible. You know, when you loaded into a strike, you didn't run through it, you know, and try to speed run it every time, right? You took your time, you killed enemies as you were supposed to, you did blah, 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 whatever, you know, you were supposed to do, you survived, you got kills, stuff like that. That is a level of fun that really, in my opinion, is unmatched. And I think as Destiny players, we get in our heads so much that, oh, we're after loot, we're after loot, we're after loot. So, you know, we got to go for the loot, right? And yes, Destiny 2 is a looter shooter. It is a looter shooter through and through. And without the loot, you know, obviously there's maybe not as much of a reason. But again, we're talking about a fun factor here, right? The fun factor of just taking your time and going through a strike at a reasonable pace, you know, with a new build that you're trying out. That is a level of fun that or a refreshing level of fun that I think is really just unmatched. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on how you can bring fun back to Destiny 2. If you have any others, I mean, let me know in the comments. These are the ideas that I do whenever I'm like bored of Destiny 1, so to speak. But if you have any other ideas of how to bring fun back to Destiny 2, especially towards the end of the season, let me know in the comments below. Also, if you're still watching, do me a favor, go down there, hit the sub button, because we do videos like this every single day of the week, except for Sundays, maybe sometimes on Saturdays too. And we like doing them. We have conversations, debates and all that stuff. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. So yeah, like, subscribe, share with your friends, blah, blah, blah. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye for now, guys.